Over 200 Holocaust survivors and delegates from more than 50 countries have gathered at the site of the former Nazi concentration camp Auschwitz-Birkenau to mark the 75th anniversary of the camp's liberation. More than 6 million Jews were killed at the camps, including more than 1 million at Auschwitz alone. They were gassed and starved and their bodies burned. For a little bit more about the importance of this anniversary, I'm now joined in studio by Tali Nates, the founder and director of the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Centre. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, 75 years on, this gathering must be especially significant given there's so few of them left that survived Auschwitz.
Absolutely. If we look at ourselves here in South Africa, we probably have only about 20 to 25 survivors still alive here in South Africa. And the youngest is probably 83, the oldest is 102. And very few camp survivors. And only 3 or 4 Auschwitz survivors alive here in South Africa. So this, in a way, is the last one where survivors can come to Poland and be in Auschwitz-Birkenau for this commemoration.
What do they say? Because, you know, this is probably something they've been asked to tell and retell over the years. What has been the message of a person who survived that kind of trauma? And what do they hope for society?
So I'm a daughter of survivors, and my father did not speak much. Many of them did not speak until older age, when they thought, if we don't speak now, we will never speak. When they tell the story, it's to relive the trauma of the years of imprisonment, not for anything that they did wrong, just because they were born who they were born Jewish. It is very traumatic, and all of them, certainly the survivors here, always want to give a message to the youth, a message to us. You know, we know the message of never again, but that is again and again and again. So their message many times is love each other, don't hate, be tolerant to each other. Many times the messages are very simple, but very powerful and important to hear.
And you kept on saying, you know, trauma and just how difficult it is. I mean, I believe that at this gathering at Auschwitz, there are more than 50 therapists there, because I can only imagine to come back into that environment, suddenly you get a jolt of those memories. Absolutely.
And many of those survivors that come back now to Auschwitz were children or teenagers. So the trauma is triggered, especially now it's winter, very, very cold. They come to the same conditions that perhaps they remember from 75 years ago, and that triggers, the senses trigger a lot of pain, a lot of fear, and you do have the therapists there to support them through this journey.
6 million people killed. I mean, you know, for a lot of people it sounds like a big number, but that is more than the whole of Botswana, the whole of Namibia put together, and a number of countries. What lessons do you think should have been learned, and have they been learned as a result of this very, very dark period in history?
You know, it's always the danger of statistics, of saying the big numbers. But of course, the 6 millions are men, women, children, babies, old people, young people. If I think, as I said, about my own family, my father survived because he was saved by Oskar Schindler. He was on the famous list, but his mother did not survive. My uncles, my aunts did not survive. The extended family did not survive. So what lessons can we learn from this terrible tragedy that happened to ordinary people, really ordinary people? I think that we do have to learn that we have choices, that we don't have to follow orders, that we need to be more moral, more ethical, we need to be kinder to each other. The lessons are about human behavior and how we should behave to each other. And of course it is a worry that we don't learn the lessons, and we need to be reminded as humanity.
Yeah.
Because of course the Holocaust did not happen by aliens from out of space, it happened by people exactly like us.
It must be a concern for the Jewish community, the rise, it appears to be, anti-Semitism in North America, parts of Europe, especially when memories of the Holocaust are still so fresh.
Absolutely, and I think anti-Semitism, very much like racism, like othering of others, if it's homophobia or xenophobia, is a disease that we need to somehow combat. Anti-Semitism is one of the oldest hatreds, and this racism against Jews, if you want to call it, never dies. You thought that after the Holocaust it would die, because 2/3 of the Jewish population of the world died or was murdered, but it didn't. And I think we need to act.
Yeah. Is it a concern for you that, you know, the Holocaust sometimes is linked to things that are happening in the Middle East today, the Palestinian-Israeli question, and that sympathies then fall literally along those lines, whereas it was a completely different story back in the 1940s?
Absolutely. In the 1940s, of course, there wasn't even the State of Israel, that was born only in 1948. But this old hatred, as I called it, this Jewish hatred that came about from the Roman period and even before that, and is alive for the past 2,000 years and more, is always there. It's mutating, and many times when it is a political issue, for example, Israel-Palestine, the terrible human rights violations that can happen in war, in conflict, on all sides, are translated against a whole population, for example, a Jewish population in the United States or in South Africa or in Morocco or wherever the Jews live. And we do need to make those distinctions between political views and between the hatred of a whole religion.
I was going to ask you this question, but I don't think you can answer it, is that why were Jews targeted? But I think what I'm more interested now is this Holocaust Center that you run. Tell us what people can experience to get a better understanding of what happened and what's been the impact really about a whole race and community of people.
Thank you so much for asking me that, because I want to open the invitation to you and to all that are listening today to come to our new Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Centre in Forest Town. It is a centre that only opened in March of last year. We had about 20,000 visitors last year. And it's really a centre of education, memory, lessons for humanity. We look at genocide in the 20th century, starting in Namibia, Southwest Africa, the genocide of the Herero and Nama of 1904, and through Armenia and through the Holocaust, get to Rwanda of 1994, April 1994. We are voting. Genocide is happening in Rwanda. So please come. We have the permanent exhibition, traveling exhibitions, and events absolutely every week. Open to the public, free of charge. Just come, engage with us. Centre of Dialogue.
Tali Nates, we're going to have to leave it there, but thanks very much indeed for coming in and sharing these powerful stories, because I do think sometimes it's easy to forget, but we certainly mustn't, given that history will repeat itself if we allow it. Thanks so much indeed for joining us today. All right.